Hello class, and welcome to this Castlequest NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and every now and then, class, I do one of these just for me, and that's what we are doing today with this Castlequest NES walkthrough. That's not to say that you can't benefit from this as well. I hope you do. Hopefully you apply this walkthrough and take it to the game and knock it out with relative ease. That's what this is all about. But yeah, this is one of those games which perplexed me, fascinated me, frustrated me to no end as a kid. I would rent this game on a Friday, and there was a good chance that by Sunday, when it was time to return to the game rental store, that I would not have put a decent dent into it, let alone beaten it. So that all changes today. I've put together what I think is a very solid and efficient route through the castle here in Castlequest, but a very difficult game. Not only do we have up to 100 rooms to contend with in this very maze-like castle, but our protagonist, Prince Raphael, went to the Higgins School of Self-Defense from Adventure Island, or maybe it was the other way around, but essentially we're made of paper mache and everything will kill us. Everything and anything in this castle, so it's very dangerous. Even water that comes up to probably our ankles will kill our protagonist. Thankfully, they give us a ton of lives to kind of offset that difficulty, but still a very difficult game. How difficult, you ask? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Castlequest for the NES an 8 out of 10, which on the frustration scale equates to writing a threatening letter to the developer, in this case ASCII. Fluff's going to talk a bit about the developer a little bit later on and share some interesting facts about this game. Blaze has your items and bestiary guide covering the items and enemies of this castle here in Castlequest, but most importantly, we're going to show you how to beat this very challenging maze puzzle action blend of a game right here in Castlequest. So let's run the intro and get into this Castlequest NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, as we begin a new game, let's take a look at the controls for Castlequest. Jump with A, attack with B, while we're holding a direction left or right. Pause with start. Once we get the map, we'll be able to hit select to pull that up, but you can see we just jumped into and grabbed that first key. Use that to automatically open that corresponding color door right there. Mind the knight right here. Blaze will have some tips on dealing with the enemies in a little bit, but just know that that enemy will shoot an arrow at you if they get line of sight with you for long enough, so make sure you're ready to jump over that. Make sure you understand also that our protagonist, Prince Raphael, has a ridiculous amount of hang time. NBA-ready hang time, I would describe it. So while you can just tap A to do a shallow jump, if you hold down A, you'll get that full height, but you also get about a second and a half of hang time before you come back down. We can use our sword, our very limited range sword, on that particular enemy, that cat enemy right there. Hopefully Fluff's not watching yet, still getting his facts together. So we're going to ignore that door right now, actually. Well, we don't have the key for it anyway, but we're going to head back to the left after we grab that key, that pink key right there. And you can see we're just gliding over these pits right here. We have an enemy right here, which you're forced to jump over. Don't try to stab them, but use that hang time with that extra ceiling space there to get over. Mind these little elevators here. If you're half off of them, when you hit the ceiling, they will crush you, and that will result in the loss of one of your 50 lives. Yes, not a typo. We begin with 50 lives. Fluff's going to talk about that a little bit later, but speaking of Fluff, and speaking of the controls, you saw we had that asterisk, and we mentioned the second controller for a couple additional options. Let's go to Fluff now while you follow along here with the track that we're taking. And Fluff, I understand we can use a second controller to well, why don't you tell us?
Every now and then I mention how a second controller is required in a game to successfully input and access a cheat. In Castlequest, The second controller plays a novel role in allowing the player to access what is called sub-command mode. Pressing A or B on the second controller at any point will bring up a black screen with 3 options: Reset, Back, and Game. While Game takes you back to the game, selecting Reset will undo any progress you've made on a screen. So if you accidentally burned a key you didn't mean to by accidentally opening a door, you can use this to start fresh on that screen at the expense of using a life. Back goes one step or room further, sending you back 1 room and resetting your progress there so you can start fresh at the expense once again of a life.
Thank you very much, Fluff. Good call. So we're going to use our gold key right there as we drop in from the top, and we can now access the map after we pick that up by hitting select. It'll show us our current location, just to play the role of Blaze here for a second. There's just a lot to cover here at the very top of Castlequest, a lot to talk about. And yeah, we can see which of the 100 rooms in the 10 by 10 grid that is the map of Castlequest that we are currently in. So dropping down here, we're going to ride up this elevator after we push this pot all the way to the left. And then once we're on level ground with the platform there, we're going to push that pot over and drop it on that enemy's head to defeat them. Watch out for that hiding enemy right there in the floor. You can see it blooming right there. A little dangerous to grab this potion right here. You'll find that the elevators, or the platforms rather, that move left to right, they do not carry you with them. You need to actively move in the direction which they are currently going. So it takes a little getting used to, but we're heading back left now, and this time we're not waiting for that elevator. In order to drop down, we need to go down while it's raised up above us. And we're going to grab this oxygen tank now, which has an obvious application here, but nonetheless, we will bring in Blaze. But as I said, a lot to get through in the at the top here, this Castlequest NES walkthrough. So, speaking of which, something we have not yet touched on, let's take a look as we quickly try to make the most out of this oxygen tank. Let's take a look at the Briggs notes for this Castlequest NES walkthrough. These are the keys to beating this game. First and foremost, and most obviously, follow this guide. We're showing you what I believe to be one of the more efficient routes to beating this game through this giant castle. There are admittedly a number of different ways which you can go. Again, 100 rooms. We don't need to see all or even most of them. I mean, we'll probably go through maybe about half of the rooms, but yeah, again, I just spent a lot of time mapping out this castle and putting together what I think is one of the most efficient tracks through it. We can use this box right here to pass through these beams when they are still. That's when they become porous, and we can pass through. Other objects can pass through, and we'll use that to box out these guys on the left side. But yeah, just follow this guide, and yeah, you'll be in good shape. And number 2, don't waste keys. Again, if you're following this guide, you won't be wasting any keys. Nothing goes to waste here on Video Games 101, certainly in a Castlequest NES walkthrough. But just my way of saying that a lot of times we'll be going into a room to grab ourselves a key and then just exiting back out the way we came in, like right there. We're not going to open up that pink door even though we have a pink key. We're going to ride up this elevator right here. If I were to add a third Briggs note as we grab this pink key right here, it would be understand the jump physics, and that's not a very good Briggs note, and that's why we left it off, but there is a prime example of what I'm talking about right here. We're going to put this barrel just before the edge so we can push it back, but you can see you can drop off sort of like the lip of something, and before gravity asserts itself, you can get that jump off, and it's very useful for getting clean jumps off in a lot of cases to make some kind of tricky jumps, if I'm honest. We're going to go through this gold door here on the right now and just grab ourselves this pink key. You can't open a door unless you're on even ground with said door, so that's why we had no chance of opening that door anyway, for what it was worth. But now we're going to pass down through the bottom here once this goes still, and then open this gold door in the bottom right. You'll note every time we enter a new screen, the game pauses and you can Just scroll left or right to see the full scope of that particular screen, see what enemies you might have to contend with. Also watch out for moving platforms as, yeah, if it hits you moving left to right, it will kill you as well. Again, the Master Higgins school of self-defense, but we have a very difficult bit of precision jumping coming up here beneath us. As you probably guessed, we need to use that one little safe spot in the spike ceiling to jump between these two enemies. It's a little sluggish, the responsiveness of our character, but that's how you do it. That's a lot more difficult than I made it look right there, so might take you a couple tries, might burn a couple lives, but be very careful not to get crushed by the ceiling right there. Also note that if we touch any point of the spikes as we immediately start pushing this to the right here, and just gonna get this to the edge so we can get a nice clean jump, making sure we don't bang our heads on that little bit of ceiling there on the blue. And just using our hang time here to buy ourselves some time, using the gap in the ceiling here to avoid damage. And then just dropping down. You can stab that enemy, but we're not coming back that way, so don't worry about it. But yeah, every bit of the spikes will kill you, even if you touch what's clearly not the sharp side, the left side. That's an instant death. A lot of games have that. It always kind of bugged me, if I'm honest, but this is certainly not the only game to feature that. Note that if we put one of these safes on top of this elevator and it goes up without us removing it before it gets up to the top, it will be crushed in the ceiling, so in which case we just have to leave, exit the room, come back, reset the puzzle. But this is what we're doing right here. We're putting that block on the lift, and then we're controlling the lift by pushing this thing, which is, as you can see, connected to the wiring here. And I'm just going to wait for this platform to go down before I try going across it, rather than going underneath and risk getting crushed. I'll push another one of these over while we have some downtime, but ultimately I want to get over there and push that pulley system back to the left to raise this up, get it out of the way so we can reach those keys. But at the same time, we also need to pull this all the way up so we can make a platform of 3 of these so we can get level with that door and then actually use a key to open it up and continue on. So while we're repeating this, have a little downtime, let's go to Blaze to give us an overview on the items finally here in Castlequest.
It's Blaze's best here in Items Guide. Alright, let's talk the items you will find in the castle here in Castlequest, beginning with the very important keys. Use these to unlock their corresponding doors. They are single use and will disappear. You also get 100 points for each key you pick up. Speaking of points, you get an extra life every 10,000, so look out for crosses. Not sure how that got past Nintendo's censors, by the way. Nintendo of America, I should say. The ring for 400, the cross for 200, the gold for 800, and then we have the map. Pick this up, there's only one of these in the entire game, but once you have it, you get 1,000 points, but more importantly, you can hit select, as the professor mentioned in the controls, and see your current location in the castle and all the rooms you've already been through. We have the Water of Life, also worth 1,000 points, but more importantly, will earn you an extra life each one you pick up. And then we have the Oxygen Bottle, 1,000 points, but 54, give or take, seconds of air in which you can be underneath the waves, if you want to call them. A bit of a grandiose term for just a solid line of blue, but yeah, once that music runs out, if you're underwater, you will lose a life immediately, so be aware of that as that music loops. And then we have finally the Power Beam. Not so much an item, but once you find one of these, you'll get about 45 seconds of invincibility, so be on the lookout for this. You can go underwater, touch spikes, even go through the ceiling in some cases if the elevator would otherwise crush you, so very interesting, the Power Beam, the uses you can get out of that. But there you are, the items here in Castlequest.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Nicely done. In fact, so nicely done. Why don't you come back and tell us about the enemies here in Castlequest?
Alright, there are only 6 varieties of enemies in the entire 100 rooms of this castle, but there are a lot of instances of each one. So let's talk about how to deal with each one and what you can expect with each of these, beginning with the knight. Be aware that when you're on level ground with that knight, they will take the opportunity at random to fire an arrow at you, which you cannot block. You need to jump over this. Best way to deal with the knight is just get close behind him and give him a stab with your sword. The bishops, on the other hand, can't be hurt with our sword. They can only be flattened or squished with an object by dropping one on their heads or pushing one towards them. So just avoid them otherwise. We have the attack cat right here. Their movement set is a little bit unpredictable, but we can stab them to take them down with a single hit. So just be aware that they like to jump when you jump. They like to react to your movements. So yeah, the attack cats. The witches, gotta put these down very quickly. Just stab them with your sword as soon as you can. Give them too much time. Once they make eye contact with you, they will begin to summon in different enemies, attack cats, knights, things like that. So just be aware that the sooner you put them down, the better. The phantom flower, we can't hurt these, just avoid them when they're small. Jump over them, take those opportunities. They go through a very basic cycle of growing and then receding back to a small size, so make your jump accordingly. And lastly, the fire spirits, just avoid these. They'll fly around the room. Not too difficult to avoid, especially with the track the professor is taking us on. But there you go, the enemies found in the castle here in Castle Quest.
Alright, good call, Blaze. Thank you very much. So that would kill us if we let that come over and crush us to the left right there. Yeah, it's a little awkward having to walk with the platforms. It's one of those witches Blaze mentioned. Give them enough time, and yes, they will summon in X-Batty, you never know, so must be careful. So in this case, we want to drop this safe right here, and we don't want to push it all the way to the left to where we can't get it back, so we're just gonna use it to push out this guy like Blaze mentioned. We just use boxes and stuff to take out these bishops. And now we can grab the pink and dark blue key. 2 blue keys, no purple keys. I noticed we got the orange, green, pink, red. 2 blue. Again, you can scope out, see what you have in store for you. Yeah, the cats, they're a little unpredictable. Sometimes a little frustrating. They like to mirror your actions. You can see they jump when we jumped right there, but I'm just gonna ride this one straight up. Open these 2 doors and pass through. If you're quick enough, you can come through here. Don't be too greedy sometimes. Sometimes you might want to wait for that elevator to come back down. Don't risk getting crushed, but after we open that pink door, we can come right back in this room. And you'll see we can grab the green key now by virtue of the fact that everything reset. And we need to do a little bit of groundwork before we scale up top. Just moving these slightly to the right to create a little flat platform for ourselves to get that box ultimately in the position we want. Once we get to the top here, we're going to need to move very quickly to the left, as this box will crush us if we are not careful. Just keep holding to the left and you'll be alright. So we're going to push this to the very edge, and if you want to risk getting this extra life potion right there, go for it. Get to the very edge and you can see again, kind of walking off the edge and then hitting that jump button at just the right time to maximize our thrust out to the left there. And thankfully we have a lot of green keys stored up. Thankfully they're giving us a lot of green keys. Don't waste one to get yourself a few thousand points right there, or 800 points. It is not worth it. We're doing just fine in the life department right now. So once you grab that pink key, open the top door, as we're gonna need to ride this elevator across. You could probably finagle your way up from the middle ground with the platforms, but a little dangerous considering they are almost at the same height. I could see our protagonist getting killed very easily right there, as he just has a knack for getting killed pretty easily. Alright, so there's a lot going on in this area. We're going to go ahead and very quickly open this door and then cut to the left and open this door as well. And mind the knight right here, let him get his shot off and then use our hang time. This is a busy area right here, so let's jump up here and then quickly, before the bishop comes back over, drop off, stab that knight in the back, and then just kind of thread that needle right there on that bishop's patrolling back and forth area to grab ourselves these green keys. And now head back, and we're going to ride this thing all the way up to the top. There's one of those fairies which will give us a red key, our first red key. Very important. Yeah, with this route, we only need to rescue one fairy, and we'll find more red keys independent of any fairies, but ride this all the way up, and there's our first flame enemy here in Castlequest. You'll note the knight will not take a shot at you when you're a little bit raised up. We have no way of getting those blue keys because, again, the gold door is not on flat land adjacent to it, so you might think it's impossible. There's no way to get those keys. We're actually going to use an elevator to come in through the floor, which they do a few times in this game. So kill those bishops with that safe right there, and then grab that key and drop down. And we're actually gonna want to go up and over this elevator and then hug left so we don't get killed by those spikes. Grab the keys, grab the potion, and then jump across here. You can see we enjoy that lift even if you don't jump, even if you have a ceiling above, like directly above you. But there's that elevator which spits us out on this floor right here. So we can finally grab those keys. I said finally, it was about a minute ago, but still. I wanted those keys, class. Once again, we're going to ignore the pulley's intended purpose in this room of controlling that thing and just push it down back into this pit once again, which we're going to drop into once again. And once again, going up and over. And this goes back to that second Briggs note of not wasting a key. We can drop down and use the pink key, but if we come in through the top, we can save ourselves a pink key and get to the exact same spot. Drop this jar down to the right, use your dark blue key to open that door, and we have rescued a fairy. And refreshingly, we get a different piece of music here, if only for a brief moment. But more importantly, for our purposes, we get ourselves a red key. So now I'm gonna drop down there just because I think this is marginally faster, as I want to ride this up to the top once again. Just as soon do that than wait for this thing to come back down from the top. Good lord. I think half of this game is just waiting for elevators to go up and down, get them in the position that you want. We're getting there. 70 lives though, feeling pretty good. Still working on our no-death hitter. It's very easy to accidentally get crushed. Take your eye off the ball for a second. Or just, every now and then. Just some of the action moments. A little tricky. We have a few more of those tricky moments coming up. Mind the witch right here. Best to put her down immediately. Grab yourself gold and light blue key, and then we're going to take this top right light blue door to pop through. Open this gold door and get ourselves a fresh pink key, a fresh gold key. Drop down right there. And this room should look awfully familiar at this point. Going to follow it back one more time. You're an old pro at this sequence by this point, class. Once again, not going to waste ourselves a pink key. Going to cut through here. Back through the fairy room. up and over. And if we're quick enough, we can very slowly ride the elevator. If we're quick enough, we can catch a very slow elevator once again. And once again, admire our 70 life count right there. And with those keys, we're going to ride this up once again. Like staying on the right side, get away from those flames. Better safe than sorry. Alright, this time we are going to go through this gold door on the left. And this is one of the more interesting, maybe frustrating puzzles right here. Tons of groundwork, so push that bottom right one over to the edge, push that one above it to the edge. And I'm going to push this bottom right one of the two to that middle position between those two platforms. Push this one right here so you can jump up. Drop these two down on top of this one, which we got in position to make yourself a nice little bridge. And now we are going to push this top left safe right here in a position where it's just on the edge so we can make a little bridge to unlock this door. And now we're going to push this down right there so we can make ourselves a bridge and push this to the edge and make ourselves yet another bridge to unlock that door and gain access to this little pulley system here. We can't drop through, unfortunately, right there, so we need to go down and through. And now we're going to push this just enough so we can drop these two down. Be careful. You can, if something is weighted above you and you push the support beneath it out of the way, it can crush you and that will kill you as well. Just to see, I think you saw that come, didn't you, class? That was going to kill you as well, but... So now we can move this pulley system, or the operator of the pulley, right to left here on our little makeshift bridge. And we need to be very quick for what's coming up right here. So, get this on the platform and then immediately jump on top of it. You need to be very careful because, yeah, it's really easy to, and then very quickly push this off to the right there, and then we'll just come around and push that to the left to actually raise up this elevator. That was the whole purpose of this, by the way, is to unblock the door. But yeah, it's very easy to, when you're trying to push that pulley operator onto that elevator, to push it either too far left or not far enough to the right, and then just kind of panic and then have it get crushed. Or worse, if you don't do it fast enough, have you get crushed. So many sentences end with, you can easily get crushed here in Castlequest. Speaking of which, immediately jump up as soon as you come out to the left to avoid being crushed by that giant jar right there, and do some shallow jumps to avoid getting killed by the spikes. I say it's just a jar, but and watch the platform as well right there. I say it's just a jar, but it is the same size as us, so if you do a full jump as you're coming off the edge of that safe right there, then you can clear this plant enemy for what it's worth. But yeah, just make sure that you do it at the very edge. You can also play it maybe a little bit safer and use the plant or the elevator, but then do the push that over to the edge and make a full jump there to clear the spikes. But yeah, I find it's a little bit more difficult judging how to make that jump when you use the elevator right there, but so you can see the elevator pushed us through the floor right there. We grab ourselves an extra life right there. Wait for this to go still, and then we'll ride this elevator up right here to the next floor. And this is a little misleading, this right here. It seems like these spikes would kill us, but you can see you need to be a little bit higher. I'm actually a little bit shocked that that doesn't kill us, but that's how you can easily make that jump. And then grab those two keys, push that jar over just enough so you can cut through, and then use it to jump through that little alcove there. Grab yourself a couple keys, and then grab yourself 6 more keys. Grab these gold ones first because you can't make the jump from the blue key area back to the... You'd have to go around an additional time, so just saves you a little time. Just be very careful when you're jumping diagonally up and to the right after you grab those gold keys, by the way, minding those spikes. But now that we've gotten all those keys, 8 keys in total on one screen, might be a record for us so far. We're going to go through this top right, little hole in the wall, grab this key, and then grab yourself some temporary invincibility, as Blaze mentioned. And we're going to be as efficient with this as possible. Just follow this track right here. We got some tricky platforming jumps. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about them killing us, but yeah, just remember you do need to move with the platforms. But make your way up. And assuming you still have your invincibility as you should, drop on this spike right there, that little ledge, to cross over here. And we can re-up our invincibility. Grab these 2 keys first, but once you have it, go through these spikes right here. And then drop down through the crack. Grab another one up, but take this top route here through the gold door. And we're gonna make a jump to cross over here. Being careful not to fall down, to grab these 2 keys, just pass through. Now at the bottom of this room. And we want to be as quick as possible to get kind of the last few seconds out of our invincibility here so we can pass through this bishop right here before it wears off. And there we go. And it'll probably wear off while we're waiting for... There we go, we're riding this very slow elevator, but important thing is we made it through with that re-upped invincibility. And that created a bit of a shortcut for us. Be very careful here at the start, mind that bishop. But climb one more, open this up, and earn yourself an extra light blue key for your efforts. And walk with the platform here. Don't try to go for that platform, you will end up falling short and that platform will run into you and kill you. So instead we're just going to drop down right here. And we're kind of getting into the final stretch here. We're going to be recycling a few of these rooms moving forward here. This is a very, very annoying room right here. Another, it takes a while. It's not especially difficult, but yeah, getting the beam down here to cooperate with you is frustrating. So we want to raise up this elevator with our little pulley here to make sure that it's at ground level here, so we can push it left to right, that box. Again, remembering that we can only push things or walk on that beam if it's moving, so I'm just going to push it in position there so that it's ready to be pushed across, but yeah, the timing doesn't always work out, like that's about to wear off. So in this case, I'm just going to lower back down the elevator and try to do something productive while I wait for that beam to start up again and load a second box onto that elevator. We'll need 2 ultimately. And they're trying to trick you with the pink and the red doors down at the bottom. We don't need those if we know what we're doing here, but yeah, once you get that opening of the solid ground of the moving beam, I should say, then you want to move that box left to right. Make sure you push it all the way so it doesn't get accidentally crushed by the elevator right there. Make sure we don't get accidentally crushed by the elevator. And the timing should work out on this one. I think we'll have just enough time to get this one across. Push this down and then move to the left, push it here, and you've made yourself a platform to open that pink door. So we'll ride this up now and then wait for this bishop to be in a opportune position for making our move here. Let him pass underneath us and then just safely cross underneath here. And then just zigzag your way up to the gold door at the top. And mind the meow meows here. It's refreshing that they can, right there, be destroyed by their own traps, actually. They're probably the only enemy that moves freely about like that. You got the bishops and the knights, which just patrol back and forth on their platforms. But yeah, they the cats move a bit more freely. But ride this elevator up here and mind the whole litter right here of 3 of them. Just keep stabbing. Game where turbo does not come in handy. You won't have that sword out long enough. You'll find that kind of similar to the jump, as we make a very long jump there and stick to the top track. You'll find that as we drop down here, you'll keep the sword out longer the longer you hold that B button down. I mean, it's, you know, maybe half a second, but still. If you are in the vicinity of that enemy and we want to drop down this middle one here, I'm trying to see if we can lure the cat down into that gap. If you can't, just time it so that you fall down while that cat is on the right side, so you can give him a jolly stab when you come on down. Key situation's looking pretty good. So we are going to need to open this right door. The princess is actually one room to the left, but we're not in a position to rescue her yet, so once again, we're going to need to travel back this same way. Riding this elevator up, taking the same track to get back to that last area. I think we'll have an opportunity as I mentioned, it's mostly, we're in the home stretch here, just kind of in the same 5 or 6 rooms, just for the most part on repeat, just laying a little bit of groundwork, grabbing a couple final keys that we're going to need. So we'll bring in Fluff in just a second, but before that, take that top track and open the green door. And you see we got to burn a red key right there, but there is Princess Margarita, as you can see, held behind 2 red doors. Drop down and grab all these gold keys, open this pink door, and mind the cats as they drop down. Stab this cat as it drops down. And open all these doors to lay some groundwork. Probably not what you want to say right before Fluff comes on. Stab these cats. But go right to left, open that green door, drop down, very quickly move to the right. If you don't waste any time, you can get through before that elevator crushes you. But grab those 3 keys, including a red key. Drop down, jump across, and grab these 2 gold keys. We need one of them to open that top gold door. But unfortunately, we need to backtrack once again through this frustrating elevator room. So while we're doing our backtracking here, Fluff, how about you tell us an interesting fact about Castlequest?
Castlequest is a 1989 NES port of the 1985 action puzzle title from ASCII Corporation for Japanese home computers like the FM7 and PC-88. Castlequest is actually the sequel to The Castle, another game released earlier in 1985, which also featured 100 rooms and the same plot and gameplay, though that title did not see an NES release. Castlequest, also known under its Japanese title as Castle Excellent, was ported to the Famicom in 1986 and featured the ability to save progress by way of the Famicom data recorder and ASCII Turbo file peripheral to save or load progress. Because the NES didn't have the capabilities of the Famicom, and they didn't ship the game with a battery and RAM chip for saving or loading progress in the cartridge itself, North American publisher Nextsoft significantly boosted the starting life count from 4 in the original Japanese version to 50 in our version in order to make the game a bit more manageable. Despite this, and with its 100 rooms of puzzles, deadly traps, and enemies, many consider this early Metroidvania title in Castlequest to be one of the more challenging titles for the NES.
Certainly is. Thank you very much, Fluff. So that top right dark blue door is ultimately where we want to go through and get to ride that elevator up. But we will need one more of those red keys before we are ready to take that elevator and then we'll use the 2 in that room with the princess herself to unlock those doors. Once we get through here, and then we'll just have to come through one more time, but anyway, finally through there. So I want to mention, we'll bring in Fluff for one more Fluff fact here in a second, but we're going to take the top route as we kind of retrace our steps here, as you'll see, but in taking the top route and getting to the room, which has, for our purposes, the final red key which we'll need to rescue Princess Margarita. There's a lot going on that room, so the frame rate is kind of stuttering. It's a little affected there, so you might want to just take your time when you come out and make sure that you actually get the jump at length so you can go ahead and cross. You'll see. We'll show you as we do that, but as we work our way back there to get that final red key and to ultimately do that silly elevator puzzle one more time, let's go ahead back to Fluff and get one last Fluff fact about Castlequest.
Whenever we cover a game from a developer for the first time, I like to give a little background on them. As I mentioned earlier, the developer on Castlequest was ASCII, a Japanese publishing company founded in 1977, which took their name from ASCII code, or the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, which is a character encoding standard to represent text in computers. The company began by publishing a monthly microcomputer-themed magazine of the same name in 1977, which quickly got the attention of the then-new Microsoft's Bill Gates and led to a partnership between the two companies in ASCII Microsoft, Microsoft's first overseas sales office in 1978. The partnership proved fruitful, as ASCII helped license Microsoft Basic software to the Japanese market and accounted for nearly half of Microsoft's sales by 1980. The partnership continued in 1983 when ASCII and Microsoft teamed up to introduce the MSX, a standard of 8-bit home computers which future regular NES developers in Konami and Hudson Soft developed titles for before, some of which would subsequently be ported to the NES, like Metal Gear. Microsoft eventually dissolved the partnership in 1986 when they formed their own Japanese subsidiary, while ASCII continued to diversify into other industries, including semiconductor production, though video games continued to be a decent chunk of their earnings, with them notably creating the RPG Maker line of programming software and the horse racing sim series Derby Stallion, the latter of which has seen roughly 24 entries in the series between 1991 and 2020, and is especially popular in Japan. In fact, in 1997, the PlayStation debut of the series and the eponymous Derby Stallion exceeded the pre-sales of the Professor's favorite game in Final Fantasy VII in Japan with 1.2 million pre-orders. Though it was worth mentioning that Final Fantasy VII ultimately won that race by a lot more than a nose and outselling Derby Stallion by more than 2-1 in Japan.
Yeah, not even familiar with the Derby Stallion series. I don't think I've ever played one of those titles. Anyone in class familiar with or fans of Derby Stallion? But yeah, that's a little crazy that it went toe-to-toe there for a little bit with my favorite of all time. But thank you very much, Fluff. Excellent work today. To you and Blaze. Gary got out of this one. There are 0 bosses here in Castlequest somehow. Despite the fact that Princess Margarita, she was kidnapped by someone. According to the manual, she was kidnapped by the Mad Miser. He's the Dark Lord of this castle, but he does not make an appearance. Looks pretty cool in the manual, but yeah, I don't know where he is. Probably locked in one of the rooms somewhere in the castle, and he's just too embarrassed. He trapped himself, and he has too much pride. So that's fine. I understand. It's a tough game, even if you're Mad Miser. I do like the manual for this game, though. Like the enemies in this game, as they introduce them, the attack cats, the knights. It's all of their descriptions are written sort of in the first person from those characters. The knight says, "It is our job to protect Groken Castle. We use arrows to defend against intruders. The bishop, I serve the all-powerful Mad Miser. I must stop Prince Raphael at all costs." As we're just continuing along with the same track as before, the attack cat. The wizard transformed us from ordinary cats into fearsome feline fighters. Thankfully, no one ever did that to Fluff. Alright, so we're going to drop down this time ahead of that red door, ride this elevator up, back in Princess Margarita's room. We already dealt with the attack cats. Push that jar over. Don't overthink it, Professor. Careful not to push this into the spikes, but create a little platform there. Use your 2 red keys. And there you go. Closure. All these decades later for me. Never saw this as a kid. I'm pretty sure never completed this one, so this was a very long time coming. Congratulations, you overcame all troubles, solved this vast puzzle, and finally saved the princess. You are the best knight. And there's your very short credit list right there. Excellent game, you know, I have to say. For 1985, 1986, I guess the Famicom release date right there. Yeah, it's a very solid Metroidvania title, but there you go. That's our time this week. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to enroll in these classes. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. Love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too if you don't mind. Really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. Have you ever beaten this game? Have you ever played this game? And if so, do you agree that it's threatening letter worthy? But that's our time this week. Thank you so much for attending this class. We'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class, right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.